What's up, everybody? Welcome back to a new video. I've been watching a lot of movies lately, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to do a director ranking. So I'm going to go through the filmography of a director and basically rank the movies from worst to best. And what better place to start than with the filmography of one Quentin Tarantino? All cards on the table here. I am actually a big fan of all of these movies, and because of that, this was a very hard list to put together and rank. But before we begin, I should mention that I have excluded Death Proof from the list, because it technically isn't counted as a Tarantino film. Even though he did direct it, it was part of the Grindhouse double feature thing, and it really isn't standalone, nor is it numbered like his other films are. Now that that's out of the way though, here's my ranking of every Tarantino film from worst to best. Kill Bill Volume 2 is probably my least favorite of his movies simply because I barely remember it, and it just isn't as gripping as all of his other work. But even though it's on the bottom of the list, it's not a bad movie, it's just my least favorite. It's just not a movie I turn to when I want to watch something. And in fact, the only time I do watch it is when I watch the first Kill Bill because it's a good companion piece. But remember, none of these are bad movies, they're just some that I don't watch as much as others. This is the first time that Tarantino made a hangout film, which basically just means that it's a movie where characters live and you sort of turn it on and live with them. Pam Grier is dope in this film, as are Robert Forster, R.I.P., and Samuel L. Jackson. And truthfully, the only reason Jackie sits at number 8 is because every time Robert De Niro is on screen, it kind of takes me out of it, because he's really the only character that feels like an actor. Reservoir Dogs is the closest Tarantino's come to a whodunit. It's frenetic, violent, features satisfying twists, and really put him on the map in the 90s. There are only a couple parts that don't hold up, but goddamn does the soundtrack make up for it. The Hateful Eight is also somewhat of a whodunit, but it's even more so a prime example of why you can never trust any of Tarantino's characters. Everyone in this movie is hiding something, and the fact that it's so engrossing despite taking place in mostly one location is impressive. Oh, and even the making of this film is worth a watch. This guitar that Daisy plays? It was an antique from the 1870s on loan from a museum. And even though they made replicas, Kurt Russell wasn't informed, and the one he destroys here? Yeah, that's the real guitar. Absolutely wild. Inglourious Basterds features the best movie opening of Tarantino's filmography and one of the best movie openings of all time. The acting on display here is stellar, and it made me want Christoph Waltz to appear in every Tarantino movie. On top of that, we get this.
Antonio Margareti. Ancora? Margareti.
Un'altra volta, ma adesso vorrei proprio sentire la musica delle parole.
Margareti.
Which to me is one of the funniest Tarantino character interactions I've ever seen. This movie was so close to being higher on the list, but the only thing holding it back was that Mike Myers is kind of distracting when he shows up, and on rewatch it can feel a bit long. Other than that, there was no way Inglourious Basterds wasn't making the top 5. Where Volume 2 is a bit underwhelming, Kill Bill Volume 1 provided an introduction to the story that blew the door off American martial arts movies. Hands down, out of all of Tarantino's movies, Kill Bill Volume 1 features the best fight scenes. The Crazy 88 sword fight and the bride's scuffle with Gogo Yubari are the pinnacle of stunt work and action directing. Like Inglourious Basterds, it too features an explosive opening, and once you're introduced to all the moving parts at play, it becomes a ride that doesn't slow down. It also happens to feature some of Bob Richardson's best cinematography. Of course, this one was gonna break the top 3. I mean, I have a Mia Wallace tattoo on my arm. When people throw around the term of what a classic is, this is always my pick. In its day, it broke the rules of chronology and gave birth to a bunch of quotable dialogue. On top of that, Pulp Fiction is the type of movie that gets people into movies, and because of that, it deserved a high spot.
This is a tasty burger.
If you've been following this channel at all, you knew this one was going to be pretty high up. In fact, some of you might be shocked that it's not number 1. This is a divisive movie for a lot of fans, but in my experience, it's a movie that gets better and better with each viewing. Just like Jackie Brown, it's a hangout movie. Well, for the first 2/3 anyway. But unlike Jackie Brown, every character in this movie is a joy to watch. Whether it be Al Pacino and his immaculate line delivery or Lorenza Izzo as Rick Dalton's wife, Francesca, everyone brings a certain flavor to the film and adds to the experience. And on top of that, Brad Pitt is an absolute badass as Cliff Booth, while DiCaprio is doing a fantastic job of channeling his inner movie star. The same goes for Margot Robbie as Sharon Tate. Her mannerisms and expressive performance served as the heart of the film and the backbone of much of the more intense scenes toward the end. Oh, and by the way, Brandy here, that's a good dog. It's time. We finally made it to number 1. But before we get into that, make sure that you drop a comment and let me know which movie you would have put in the top spot. Oh, and yeah, don't forget to leave a like if you dig this ranking, because then I'll make more. Now with that out of the way, let's get to number 1. Django Unchained did the impossible for me. It made westerns exciting. I'll be honest, I was never a fan of the western genre. They all generally seem to be the same thing every time, and they usually bored me to death. So when I heard Tarantino was making a western, I was a little hesitant, but goddamn was I stupid. Because Django Unchained is my favorite of the bunch. Once again, Christoph Waltz effortlessly exudes charm and likability as King Schultz, and the interplay between him and Jamie Foxx nearly gives Brad and Leo a run for their money. Speaking of, Leo in this movie is fucking invisible. All you see is the scum of the earth that he is playing, and he's downright evil in the role. But by far, my favorite aspect of the film is, you guessed it, Django himself. Jamie Foxx is so damn cool in this movie, and Django's character arc and motivation is my favorite of any Tarantino character. From the action to the direction to the writing and scope of the film, Django Unchained is firing on all cylinders. It's sad and funny and everything in between, and that's why it's number 1 on the list. As always, I appreciate you guys coming on by to listen to me ramble for a few minutes. If you're new here, you should click my face right there and subscribe, because more director rankings and a variety of other content is on its way. Now, go watch a movie, and hopefully I'll see you soon.